Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of April 8th, 2014. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here. Terry Burns, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have two announcements. First of all, the annual pancake breakfast and Easter egg hunt will begin on April 12th, this Saturday at 9 to 11 at San Bruno City Park, and the Easter egg hunt itself begins promptly at 11 a.m. There's some flyers at the table in the back, so please take some. Okay. Also, a reminder that Operation Clean Sweep will be held Saturday, May 3rd, 2014, gathering right at City Park, as we usually do. You want to say anything, Irene?
I just hope a lot of people come. We're looking forward to celebrating our centennial on that day as well, and we have beautiful T-shirts that have the 100-year logo on it and a special design. So we hope to see you there at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, May 3rd. Thank you.
Okay, and then we also have an announcement that we'd like everyone to participate in. April 19th, we're going to have a Centennial Architectural Walking Tour, and the announcement reads, join the library and community development staff for an architectural walking tour of San Bruno. From Queen Anne cottages to bungalows, craftsmen to colonial revival, San Bruno has an amazing variety of homes. Learn about the variety of various architectural styles found in the city and see historical examples on this 45-minute, 1-mile walking tour. Meet in front of Starbucks at 501 San Mateo Avenue at 10 a.m. on Saturday, April 19th. So we hope to have a big crowd, and Starbucks will love you. So, good. Any other announcements? Okay. Presentations. There aren't any presentations this evening. Review of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Okay. Item number 6, approval of the minutes of the special City Council meetings of March 25th and 29th, 2014, and regular City Council meeting of March 25th, 2014. Any errors, corrections, omissions? Seeing none, they'll be approved as submitted. Consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent calendar on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearings. We don't have any public hearings this evening. Item number 9, public comment on items not on this agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? All right. Get right into conduct of business. 10A is receive a report and provide comments on the city's proposed 2014-2022 General Plan Housing Element Update, except the 2013 Housing Element Annual Progress Report, APR, and direct staff to forward the report to the California State Office of Planning and Research and the California Department of Housing and Community Development. Mark?
Thank you. Good evening. Is this on? Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. This item is a report on the housing element, the City of San Bruno's housing element. There are actually two actions that the City Council will take on this item. The first is to adopt a resolution accepting the 2013 Annual Progress Report for the current housing element. And as I mentioned, this is just covers the year 2013. It's due annually to the Department of Housing and Community Development. And the second action is to receive a report on the update of the housing element for the 2014-2022 planning period. That's the current housing element is considered the fourth cycle, and the next one is the fifth cycle, just so that you
Mark, can you
understand those
get
terms.
a little closer to the microphone so
Yeah.
everyone can
Is
hear?
this, is, yeah, it
There you
is.
go. There you
Indeed. Okay. So just as a bit of background, the housing element is required by state law. It is an element of the general plan, and it's the only element of the general plan that's required to be approved by the state, by the Department of Housing and Community Development, and to be reviewed annually by the state. And it provides a tool to promote housing production to meet the housing needs of people of all incomes and all needs within the community. And there are essentially 5 mandated sections of the housing element. There's a housing needs assessment, which essentially looks at current and projected demographics, housing conditions, and what the needs are of special groups such as female-headed households, extremely low-income households, people with disabilities. Another section is the housing constraints and resources. What are the constraints, governmental and in the private sector, that prevent housing from being developed or hinder it from being developed? Then there's a land inventory and quantified objectives, which basically is designed to meet the regional housing needs, which is determined from the state all the way down to the local level. And the city has to identify sites to meet its housing needs. Then there's also goals and programs and implementation actions, which are designed to facilitate housing for various needs groups and to achieve our regional housing needs allocation. And then finally, there's an assessment of how the previous housing element succeeded in implementing the actions for that housing element. So in terms of the progress in the last year, the regional housing needs allocation for San Bruno, or RENA as we like to call it, was a total of 973 units, and as you can see, it's broken out by different income levels, very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. We had sufficient sites identified that are zoned for residential, which is the requirement under RENA, but we also actually produced a fair amount of the housing. A total of 750 units have been completed or are under construction between 2007 and the end of last year. So that is significant progress. Looking now at the accomplishments of the whole housing element period from 2007 to 2014, the city had a number of accomplishments, including, as I mentioned, 750 units completed. The below market rate housing ordinance was adopted, and we've also collected about approximately $3.5 million in affordable housing in lieu fees, which can be used to assist affordable housing within the city. The residential guidelines were adopted. Emergency shelter zoning and area for that was identified by the city council. The transit corridors plan was adopted. The zone code update was started and is moving along. There's been substantial progress in that. And the city has continued to provide financial assistance to local housing organizations. And to see some of the projects that were completed, there's the parcels 3 and 4 at the crossing, which is 350 units. Those are the last 2 housing sites at the crossing development. Pacific Bay Vistas, the major remodel, essentially redevelopment of the old Treetops development, that's 308 units. The Crestmore rebuilding, that's gone along quite well. There are 17 homes that are completed or under construction. Merrimont in 2009, 70 single-family homes. Cedar Mills, 14 single-family homes completed in 2012. And Skycrest, which actually was stalled because of the economic downturn in 2008 and was revived a year ago, and the last 12 homes are going to be completed this year. So what else needs to be done for the current housing element? In order to be in compliance with state housing law, the city needs to implement 4 programs that are identified in the current housing element. And these all involve zone code amendments. And those 4 changes are zoning for transitional and supportive housing. And essentially, it's defining transitional and supportive housing as a residential use with allowed as any other residential use. And so that's a fairly simple change. Adopt reasonable accommodation policies and procedures, and that's essentially reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities so that there could be modifications to zoning standards to allow, for example, a ramp within a front yard setback or a wall or something like that, so that a disabled person could enjoy their property. Adopt a density bonus ordinance, and that's a bit more complicated, but the density bonus law requires that we do that. It's up to 35% increase in density for projects that provide affordable housing on a sliding scale. And it also allows concessions to zoning. So, for example, depending on the amount of affordable housing provided, the city would be required to grant zoning concessions such as reduced setbacks or reduce landscape requirements or something like that in order to make the project possible. And finally, zoning for emergency shelters. The City Council discussed this back in 2010 and identified the transit-oriented, the TOD land use classification in the 2009 general plan as an appropriate location for emergency shelter zoning. And staff is working on these zone code amendments. They're about complete, and we expect to bring them forward in May. So we'll be seeing those fairly soon. Now going to the housing element update for the 2014-2022 period. We're working with 21 elements, which is a county-wide sort of consortium of all 21 jurisdictions in the county working together to do all the things that are sort of in common and, you know, efficient use of resources so that we can, you know, get things done that are common to all the communities while also customizing the housing elements for each jurisdiction. We're also the entire 21 elements is working towards what's called a streamlined review by HCD and the Housing and Community Development Department. And this would allow an expedited review of the housing element, which is important because the housing element has to be adopted by January 31st, 2015. And if it is not adopted by then, well, if it is adopted by then, we enter into an 8-year cycle for the next housing element, so that we would be good for 8 years. If it doesn't get adopted on time by the deadline, it's reduced to 4 years. You would have to do this process again in 4 years. So streamlined review is really important. And our new regional housing needs allocation number for this 8-year period is 1,155 units. So those are the number of units that we need to provide zoning for, not build, but provide zoning for the next 8 years. And just for the public here and at home, we have we'll have the draft chapters of the housing element and other information about the housing element on the city's website. And this is sort of the direct direct URL, but you can just go to the city website and the planning, and you'll find the link to the housing element. The housing element starts with housing needs, and just to give you a little bit of a context and background, ABAG has done projections through 2040, and they basically project that in the Bay Area there will be a growth of about 1.1 million new jobs throughout the Bay Area. This translates into a need for new housing of 660,000 housing units. And just sort of extrapolating on, what the needs are by income level, the estimate is that roughly 56% of those housing units need to be affordable to low and very low income households. So you can see the need is enormous. I mean, it's really huge. And in San Bruno, currently, about 60% of households earning below $75,000 overpay for housing, which under sort of federal definitions mean that people pay more than 30% of their income for housing. And on top of all that, there's been a tremendous loss of funding for affordable housing. Federal funds have declined year by year. State housing subsidies have gone away, including redevelopment. And there were a couple of bond measures that provided funding for housing, and they're about dried up now. So there are huge challenges in the future in this next cycle. So here is our RHNA allocation for the next housing cycle period. And as you can see, the total 1,155 units, how it's broken down, is roughly 180 units, or 180 units for extremely low and very low income households, 161 for low, 205 for moderate, and 431 for above moderate. So basically what that's showing is that about 44% of the housing produced in the next cycle should be affordable to people at lower incomes. And that's another enormous challenge. So the housing element update process we've started now. We've started draft chapters. We have a draft housing needs chapter. We're working on updating the goals and programs section and also identifying sites for housing. There's a lot of carryover from the last element, but there will need to be zone code changes in order to accommodate the full 1,155 units. And our goal or our target is to adopt the housing element, to have the City Council adopt the housing element in October. And that will give time for HCD review and certification by January. And just to let you know, there's a 120-day grace period. So things don't happen. January 31st is not a drop-dead date, although we're treating it as if it is. So the next steps are really, first is to complete the current cycle housing element implementation actions, and that's those 4 zone code amendments that I mentioned. And then continue preparation of the 5th cycle housing element update. I mentioned a couple of these things already, identifying adequate housing sites and updating programs. Public input and participation, and the public has an opportunity tonight to comment or ask questions about the housing element. And we will have an open house and once we get the draft completed. And we expect to complete the draft housing element in June, and we'll bring it back to the City Council for review prior to submitting it for an initial review by HCD. And that concludes my presentation to you.
Question mark. I know the numbers 1,155 aren't going to change, but do the underlying monetary values change over the 8-year period? The underlying monetary qualifications for moderate and low and
yes,
extremely low.
they change on an annual basis, and they're set by Department of Housing and Urban Development, by HUD. So every year they're adjusted.
Okay, and they're adjusted on a regional basis?
They are adjusted county by county.
County by county.
So yeah, this is for San Mateo County. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
To the chair. Mark, I realize you'd really want a lot of public input on this, but I doubt if you're going to get it. But for the public that's listening or would consider comments on the housing element, what sort of things should they be concerned about? I mean, you're talking about zoning here, or rezoning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, for example, with the emergency shelter zoning, we will need to do a notification for that around the area. So I would imagine we'll get some public input on that when we do the notification. But other things are sort of, what are the priorities? What are the community's priorities? What do people see the needs are? I mean, is it senior housing? Is it senior housing, multifamily senior housing near the train station? Transitional housing, what are the types of housing that people really see the biggest needs are? I mean, is it workforce housing for families? Is it, larger household with more bedrooms for families, or smaller, smaller units for single working people? I mean, I guess those are the types of things I think we'd be looking for.
Anything else? Need any action by us tonight, Mark?
There is a resolution related to the annual progress report, for accepting the annual progress report.
Is there a resolution this evening, or just a motion to?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Where did I see that? Oh, okay, all right. Would someone like to
No
introduce the
other
resolution?
comments? I'll introduce the resolution. Accepting the progress report.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10B, receive a report and approve First Avenue sidewalk and landscape improvements associated with the Caltrain grade separation project.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening. Yes. This is a oral report. The purpose of the report to provide you with an update and also with some alternative option to choose from in regards to detailed design on the east side of the grade separation project. This is the one. The construction of the grade separation project was started with the assumption that additional 2 tracks will be built on the east side of the project. Reason why all of the design details were finalized on the west side of the projects and not on the east side of the project. After JPB made the final decision to finalize the project with the 2 tracks, having the modification on the design for the high-speed rail. Subsequently, the design on the east side was finalized for the project, and you approved those design details in September of last year and in December of last year. Due to a miscommunication during the construction of those details on the east side of the project, the location of the sidewalk was constructed in a different location versus what was your approval. And that's the reason why the project manager is here to provide you with some alternative for your consideration and decision to make. Rafael Bolon from JPB, the project manager, will make the presentation and those recommendations.
Thank you and good evening. So I'm just going to give a very brief update on the sidewalk at First and Pine, and then I've got one decision for the council regarding sidewalk further up on First Avenue. So First Avenue at Pine, this is the area between Melody Toyota and Pine Street on top of the existing box culvert. It was designed with a 6-foot sidewalk adjacent to the curb. then there was a planter strip and then the raised planter that you see going in now. However, there was a conflict with the box culvert. Basically, the box culvert is right under where we were intending to build the planter strip, and it just doesn't fit. So what we've had to do is just extend the sidewalk out just in the location, again, from Pine to Melody Toyota with a wider sidewalk, and the streetlights move into that raised terraced bed that I mentioned. So it's going to look like this, but with a sidewalk. So instead of just having a 6-foot sidewalk this far and then a planter strip, because we only had 5.5 inches of cover, we couldn't get planting to work. So we're just going to extend the sidewalk all the way out. Lights will still be there, but they'll be set further back in the planter strip. Second and final item is the First Avenue sidewalk, the rest of it. So this is now all the area south of Pine all the way up to the BART facility. So this was what was shown in December 2013. However, as Clara mentioned, the design in the field is a little bit different than that. The current design, we've got anywhere from a 5.5 to a 7.5 foot planter strip going right off the curb. Then you've got a 6-foot wide sidewalk. Then you've got this 2'11", 2'10" smaller planter strip. Then you have the wall and the terrace planting. So I'm going to show you two options very quickly and then just ask you to decide what you prefer. Option 1, to keep that planter strip. Option 2, to pave it. This is the sidewalk as it appears today. So this is at Angus, but it actually represents the sidewalk all the way from the Sylvan Underpass to, as I mentioned, Pine Street.
So, I'm
Yes.
sorry, could you slow down just a little bit and
Okay.
repeat what you just said? It's from where to where?
Okay, so this sidewalk, this shot represents essentially First Avenue from Pine, which is the cross street just before you hit Melody, and then it runs past, so it runs from Pine to Angus, and then again south of Angus, and right at the Sylvan Underpass, it deviates a little bit from this in that it runs into the underpass. But generally speaking, what you see in that photograph represents what the sidewalk looks like at First Avenue from Pine all the way south. And so just to be specific, this is the planter strip to which I referred, which is 5.5 to 7.5 feet, depending what location you're at. Here's your 6-foot sidewalk, and then this is the smaller planter strip that I was referring to, which is just shy of 3 feet. Then you have this block wall followed by a terraced planting. It obviously hasn't been planted yet, so all you see is hydro seeding, but in the final condition, this whole section will have planting. So this was option 1, which is essentially the leave as is option, and plant this with planting. There's already irrigation in.
Excuse me, Raphael.
Yes.
Could we just stop for a second and make sure the council is clear about what the area Mr. Bowen is referring to?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I apologize, I haven't been down there for a week. So the last time I was there, the sidewalk was poured from Angus south to the dead end.
Correct.
Okay, and this is not that.
So, I'm sorry, Angus south to the dead end, you mean to the where the BART thing starts over by?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
There was
and-
also some sidewalk on the north side that was in at that time. This is not that, no, this is a sidewalk
Okay.
at Angus and First, essentially.
So last week this wasn't there.
Excuse me, there was nothing poured a week ago. It was, the only thing that I noticed was poured was Angus South.
Angus south, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. This is less than 1 week old, that is correct.
So.
So you went ahead and
So
started
you went
pouring
ahead
this?
and poured it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, so what are our choices then?
At this point, the choice would be to either leave it as is or to go with a wider sidewalk and extend the sidewalk 9 feet out to the wall. Exactly. 3 feet, yes.
Go ahead and finish your presentation.
That's pretty much it.
Show the next slide.
This was just a shot of the terracing concept, but basically those are the two options at this point.
Or why don't you restate those options one more time?
Sure. So the current design, we have a 5.5 to 7.5 foot planter, a 6 foot sidewalk, and then a 2 foot 11-inch planter and a terraced block wall with a planter. And just to be clear, everything I'm describing right now is in or is going in shortly. So you have this planter strip here, which is going to be planting. You have the 6 foot sidewalk, and then you have this smaller 2 foot 11 planter strip. And what I am asking is the disposition of this section here. It was my understanding there was a concern regarding there being, quote, too small a planter strip. And so my recommendation, or at least an option, would be that we could extend the width of the sidewalk, and in lieu of having a 6 foot sidewalk adjacent to a relatively narrow planter, would be to just have a wider sidewalk. If that is unappealing, the option would be to keep the 2 foot 11 planter.
And where are the lights? Are they still up on the,
They
on the
are.
slope?
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on that. So the lights, the scene I was showing here with the lights up on the slope, this is only where the box culvert is underneath, because we couldn't put the foundations into the box culvert. So this is only literally at Pine, just before that ramp. It's the section that's got the box culvert. This represents approximately, I believe, 140 feet of linear distance along First Avenue where this condition exists. The rest of First Avenue, we don't have a box culvert, so the lights are at the curb line here. So you can see these lights already in place. So in this scenario, this would be this would be planted, and the lights would be within that planting strip.
Rico?
Chair, real quick, does this delay anything by going to the second option, 1? 2, is there any additional costs? And if the answer is yes, then who pays?
So delay-wise, no, it's not going to delay us because we can do this as a separate pour. Will there be additional cost? Yes, clearly there will be additional cost. Who's going to pay for it? The JPB is going to pay for it. The misunderstanding that Clara was referring to is a large proportion of is my fault. So we're going to try to make it good, and JPB will pay for whichever option, either the planting, if that's what the council wants, or we'll pour the concrete at our expense.
I appreciate your concise answers, and I appreciate you standing there and taking ownership. So I respect that. I think what always challenges me at times is that we're being asked things when in essence it's almost done. That when I go back to the fountain, which I totally was in support, that it was, do you want it or not, but the pipes are in the ground. So we have it almost done, and now we're being asked as it's been poured, and the irrigation is there, whether we want to proceed. So I appreciate your answers, and I appreciate you coming forward and explaining the miscommunication.
So where's the irrigation now?
There is irrigation in this planting strip. There's irrigation in the terrace, but the irrigation I referred to as already being in is under this small strip as well. So in either event, you'd still use this irrigation, you'd still use the irrigation on the terracing. The one that's in doubt is this right here. If you want it sidewalk, it's PVC, we'll simply bury it. No harm, no foul. If you want to use it, it's there. We'll hook it up to the existing system. There's a controller at first by the station, and we would just tie it into that. So it's been designed to accommodate that. It's not a lot of massive amount of water, so it's not going to change the system one way or another. We would just lose the PVC.
Through Chair.
Ken?
I don't have a problem with 3 feet of planting. And I actually don't mind when we learned of this, and I went out and measured it. It's 3 feet of landscaping. It's a 6 foot sidewalk, and in many cases, what I measured was about 8 feet from the sidewalk to the curb.
Correct.
So, like you said, 7.5 feet of planting. My concern is that there's going to be cars parked along that curb, and so any planting that's there is going to get trampled. And it's also going to gather litter. I prefer to see, if we're going to add more sidewalk, I prefer to see more flat work for passengers getting out of the car. Still, people are going to cut across, and there's going to be some trampling of cutting, because it's 8 feet from the curb, they're going to cut through, and I'd love to see some, little pathways here and there, just some stepping stones or whatever, just so that people don't walk through the plants to get to the sidewalk. Because we're not talking intersections here, we're talking a straight sidewalk from Angus almost all the way to the train station. There's no breaks. So anyone wanting to get on that sidewalk is going to cut through planting. And so I'm in favor of adding more paving, but within that strip between what you've already poured and the curb.
The larger one.
Yeah, the larger one.
So not that it would 100% mitigate what you just said, because I don't disagree with you. Anytime you have planting, not everybody respects it. We could potentially mitigate that by putting, like you said, some kind of either paving stones or pouring some concrete out to allow, you're not going to stop everybody, but at least if it's a choice of walking a block or cutting across the planting, I can understand that. If it's a case of walking an extra 10 feet, most people will do the right thing. That's
yeah, they're going to find their way. Yeah, you're going
Right.
to see. Yeah, you're going to see the little paths
Right.
over time.
So that's a thing we could do if that's of interest.
Let me just clarify that. So Ken, you're saying to put some horizontal pieces there.
I'd like to see, we have an existing 6-foot sidewalk, and there's an existing 3-foot planting strip between the sidewalk and the wall. Quite possibly look at another 3-foot
Right.
planting strip on the other side of the existing sidewalk, and then have about 3 feet of paving for, next to the curb, or up to the curb. So that those light poles would be in paving, would be
Right.
in the sidewalk.
So there would be 3 feet.
Yeah, so
Right
cut
there,
that,
and then
cut
you
that
have
in
a
half,
planter.
yeah.
Understood. That's an option as well. What I was suggesting is you could put individual, doesn't show up real well with the laser pointer, but you know what I'm talking about, individual access points.
Yeah.
Just
No,
to minimize
anything to break up would be fine, but I don't think we need 12 feet of sidewalk. Or even, 9 feet, or even
Right.
15 feet of sidewalk.
Right. So that is absolutely doable if that's something that the council would prefer to what I just laid out.
No, I agree with that. You're going to have people stepping all over that landscaping if you just give them one option to either go into the street or go into the plants, so,
Makes sense.
all right. Irene?
Can I ask staff, have they considered what the pros and cons are for having the smaller strip next to the terrace planter and this current sidewalk? So it's a 2 point, could you go back one?
Yeah, sorry. 3 feet,
Thank you.
basically.
So 3 feet of planter strip. What do we have a plan of what we're going to put there, how we're going to maintain it, how we're going to keep people from, going up and trying to climb up the planter strip, the terrace part, how you're gonna, it just, anyway, those are my questions.
Council member, that's how was the original design. The original east side design was this smaller planter strip, then the sidewalk, then the wider planter strip. That was reviewed extensively by Park and Recreation for design and maintenance purposes, and they felt comfortable with maintaining those landscape area.
Okay.
Later on, this was the design presented for your consideration in September of last year, and then later on, you requested changing the design, and that's when was moved the sidewalk closer to the curb with the recommendation to install the sidewalk at the curb and to create a larger landscape area, which that was your decision at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
Just, I would offer, Councilmember Ibarra, that with another possible alternative would be, instead of creating a horizontal additional 3 feet of paving along the curb, maybe to create some vertical design, the connection between the sidewalk and the curb. And that's just another possibility.
Vertical or horizontal?
Vertical. You said horizontal and
Perpendicular to the side.
perpendicular.
Yeah, the only issue is you don't know where people are going to get out of their cars. And if it's going to line up. So.
You would assume that most of the people will basically park, yes, in the right direction.
You would
and
assume.
I would assume, yes, you are absolutely correct.
So staff's recommendation would be, rather than the horizontal, having more strips of pavement to either install pavers at relatively frequent intervals or perpendicular pieces of poured concrete to create the same opportunity to avoid stepping in the plants.
And I think the rhythm of the light standards, that's probably where you might want to increase the paving, since you've taken away the ability to walk around them. Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
That would be part of the consideration. I think it's a great idea.
So option 3, as I hear it, would be to do additional flat work at this interval perpendicular to the sidewalk. I thought you're not going to necessarily stop everybody, but at least you've provided mid-block alternatives to walking all the way up to Angus.
Yeah, and I would say, pay some attention to how you've laid out that parking.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, unless we're actually going to, stripe parking spaces, then you can strategically place that, the pavement. But for the purposes of you counting parking spaces, you've already laid out some,
Correct.
Parking. So,
Yep.
So you'll have a pretty good idea where that should be.
Correct.
Okay. Questions or comments or? Okay, why don't you tell us what we're going to approve right now?
So what I just heard, just so I'm clear, is the option 3 you don't see in front of you, which is to keep the 2'11", the paving, I mean the not paving, the planter, and then to add elements perpendicular to that 6-foot sidewalk, taking into account the logical spacing of a car, and as well the spacing of the poles that are there for lighting, and essentially provide intermittent perpendicular elements to allow them to cross. No? Okay.
I had made a proposal that we continue a sidewalk along the curb of 3 feet,
Okay.
of paving of 3 feet. If we're not in favor of that, then, I still have an issue with wherever cars are and where that paving isn't, that landscaping's, shot.
Okay.
So, I'm not married to anything, so, I mean, I think as long as we provide some flat work connection between the curb, the street, and the 6-foot sidewalk, I'm fine with it, so. Go on with your option 3.
Right. So you're suggesting, just so we get it straight, that maybe there be let's just say a 2-foot section parallel to the sidewalk that's there, but adjacent to the curb, and then have some perpendicular elements.
Let me just say it
so
right
they
now,
can walk.
I hate being the passenger getting out of the car and stepping right into a planting strip.
Right, exactly.
And that's what I do, that's what you do in some of the older neighborhoods. And that's why some of the older neighborhoods that have planting strips, they're not planting strips anymore. They're paved in. So I think intermittently, I mean, we should have paving, and then, then you can, have a relief of landscaping between that, that narrow paving and the large sidewalk.
I agree. Okay, Irene?
Okay?
I would agree if I knew what you were all saying. So, okay, so you have the curb, and you're saying to put 3 feet of, an additional 3 feet of sidewalk, and then have a narrow strip, a narrow strip of planter with intermittent sidewalk to connect the.
Some paving, maybe
Paving, pavers, something.
maybe a 6x6 area that's where the poles in the middle of it.
What
The
I
light poles
heard,
in the middle.
what I heard, you considered to have a 2 feet additional paved adjacent to the curb, then you will have a little bit over than 3 feet planter strip between that additional paving and the existing sidewalk, then the second planter strip, and to have some perpendicular paver connecting that additional paved parallel wider curb with the sidewalk.
Are you agreeing with that? Because that's a lot
Yeah.
more side. Okay.
If that's what,
He already offered to pay, don't
No,
question
no, no.
his choice.
I have to say something. I truly do not remember getting into this kind of detail in September when approving these things. Not at this scale. So I appreciate the fact that we had some plans and that we looked at things and we went through things. But to say that we approve this, I think is a little misleading to the public because we didn't. I know I didn't, or I didn't intend to. If I did, I apologize. But just the conversation we've had here and your own experience, and people out here, I can see their faces when we talk about it. Nobody likes to step out of a car into a plant. I mean, even if they don't intentionally step on a plant, eventually somebody's going to step on a plant. So I just want to say that because I appreciate your problems. I know we had stacks of documents like this with so much drawings and changes and all those other things. But the next town you go to, could you do this kind of thing before you pour the concrete and ask them ahead of time? So I think your life would be a lot easier. That's all. Thank you.
Ken?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with option 3 with, I believe, at least 2 feet of paving from the curb, and then intermittent paving connecting that 2 feet with the main side, with the 6-foot sidewalk.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Are we all understood?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Item C, adopt a resolution approving design recommendation for the Culture and Arts Commission for a Centennial Art Project, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Margarita Soifertis in the amount of $75,000 and designating $5,000 of the city art fund as a reserve fund for art maintenance. John.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor Owain, members of the City Council. I'm John Alita. I'm the Assistant Community Services Director. I'm here tonight to represent the Culture and Arts Commission and bringing forward their recommendation of a design concept for a Centennial Art Project and ask your authorization to enter into a contract with the selected artists. And in addition, a secondary request that there be an allocation from the City Art Fund to allow for repair of the city's inventory of existing public art. Before I get into the meat of the presentation, I just want to acknowledge the members of the Culture and Arts Commission that are here tonight. Chairperson Tammy Parker, Commissioner Melody Tobin, Commissioner Carolyn Livengood and Commissioner Pamela Gamble. The artist is also here with us tonight, and after the presentation and the commissioners' few words, we will be able to have her talk a little bit more in depth about the concept. And just for the audience's knowledge, there is a concept drawing to the side of the dais, as well as a tile sample of the mosaic work that is being proposed. This item first came to the council in April of 2013 when you approved a project concept of a Centennial Art project and a site location for that project. That site location is on Sneath Lane, and initially identified 4 retaining walls along the north side of Sneath between the 2 entrances of Claremont Drive. The project, though, has really devolved down to 2 of the wall segments, which are on the map and circled for your for ease of understanding. Those are the only 2 of the 4 that are being considered for the project. The council, after approving that concept of a Centennial Art project and site, the commission then went back and developed a request for qualifications for an artist, and came back to the City Council in July 9th of last year to ask your approval of that request for qualifications and the project amount of expending up to $75,000 from the city's art fund in order to cover the costs of the project. After that RFQ approval, the commission advertised the RFQ for a period of about 6 weeks, solicited applications from all over the country. By the end of that process, 74 applications had been received. There was also a site visit for any interested artists to look at the site prior to the application deadline and to speak with staff or the commissioners more about what their intention was. The projects were, applications were measured against the basic criteria. 31 met that criteria and then were brought to the commission for their review. Those were then whittled down to a pool of about 9 semifinalists. Interviews were conducted with them, and of those 9, there were 2 that were felt to be closest in concept and idea to what the commission was seeking. Those 2 artists were asked to complete a scale model and drawing of their proposed idea, and well, that came back to the commission for evaluation. And after that process, the commissioners selected Margarita Soifirtis as the artist that they would like to recommend for the Centennial Art Project. The project, as its name implies, is intended to serve as a lasting commemoration of the city's first 100 years since incorporation. So in addition to the request tonight that you authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for $75,000 with the artist, the commissioners are also asking that you, also recommending that $5,000 of the city's art fund be created as a set-aside so that repair work and maintenance work can be done on the inventory of the city's public art projects. As you know, this commission has been very successful with their projects, and the city has a growing body of them, and they want to make sure that they're maintained and repaired in a manner that keeps them looking beautiful within the city. The fiscal impact of the project, as I mentioned, there is $75,000 that's been approved in the 2013-14 operating budget for the project. That money would be expended from the city's public art fund. Maybe a little explanation for the public is always helpful. The city art fund is actually created by a small percentage of permit fees that are pulled, and they go into a fund that then builds and is used to create public art. So the fiscal impact is that expenditure, and right now the city art fund currently has a balance of $151,000. So the staff is asking for you to consider adopting that resolution, and I would like this time to ask Commissioner Melody Tobin and Chair Tammy Parker to come up and talk to you a little bit.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Tammy Parker. I am the newly elected chair of the Culture and Arts Commission. It is our extreme honor to recommend this project to you for your approval. It has been a tremendous undertaking. The staff has just helped us in every possible way to put this project together. We're very excited about it, and I would like to pay tribute, if you will, to our commissioners in this journey because it has been challenging, and we certainly hope we've done our job right. As I would like to have Commissioner Tobin, say a few words because she was chair and head of this project from the start. So, Mel, please.
Thank you, and good evening. I can't believe it's been a year since we started this project, and we are close to the finish line. Hope that you will approve the project and the artists that we have selected and endorsed. As John outlined, we had a tremendous response of over 70 artists that were interested in working with San Bruno on this project. So it's been an exciting journey. John has done a tremendous amount of work honing down that list to the 30 most qualified that the subcommittee went through and honed down to 10 that we did interviews with. We have unanimously picked Margarita for our endorsements, and her project has been a work in progress since December. She's been very good about working with us on changes and transitions and how we see it evolving. The good news is she's very local. She is very flexible, and she's taken all our input with a lot of grace and always set her own priorities aside to fulfill our dream. And so this is 100 years of San Bruno, the progress of San Bruno in the past 100 years. It begins at the turn of the century. It begins actually with the Ohlone Indians. It moves on to the turn of the century into the progress of automobiles and airports, starting with Tan Fran, onto the racetracks, onto the San Francisco International Airport. It recognizes San Bruno Mountains, and on into the future. So if you have any questions for me, I can answer them at this time, or I can introduce Margarita Sofritas.
Margarita would be great, but I think what we need, the Vice Mayor and I have been kind of in depth with this on the subcommittee, so we're pretty familiar, but I don't think the rest of the council has had the opportunity to really see this. So
okay.
Is there a way we can, also the public, we could get this maybe brought up to show and have a little explanation so that it can be
Sure.
shown on film on TV?
Sure we can. This work, to let you know a little bit about the medium of this work, is that this is a tile project that is going to be created off-site. And here is a representation of the tile. This is one of the figures from the turn of the century. These are individual tiles, just like you would see tiling a bathroom. And some examples of what the art is. Through the trains, again, the turn of the century. We're using both positive and negative space, so the entire 2 retaining walls that we're working on, it will not be covered 100%. That would be impossible to do in our $75,000 budget. We certainly had artists that came back to us saying that they could do it more tiles or cover more area, but it was going to be more money. And we really wanted to be respectful of the budget that we originally set aside for the $75,000 and complete the project and be able to complete it in a timely manner. So you will see on the wall there's going to be tiles, and when we say negative space, there's area that will not be tiled. It will be painted in contrast so that it still is part of the art project and doesn't look like something that's unfinished. The entire 2 retaining walls that we are completing will look like a finished project. The other item that we're bringing before you is in anticipation, because this is a public road, and we know, as the chief pointed out last year, people do have a tendency to, swerve, especially if you're looking at some art. We want to set aside some money in a budget so that if there is a little fender bender or a little accident up here or to any piece of our art in the city, that we can repair it in a timely fashion so that it does not become a plight to the city.
Okay. And just for clarification, these are drawings of what they'll be made out of tile.
Correct. These drawings will be made out of tile. Again, they will be done off-site, so they will be done on big boards, and then they will be anchored and mounted to the walls. We are also going to be installing some lights, so that there will be lighting coming from the top, looking down, very much like a picture light and a very nice picture on your wall, a painting, so that they will be lit in the evenings. They're non-reflective tiles, so they won't be blinding anybody driving by or creating any type of hazard. And at the end, you will see where we have the commemoration of the centennial, the 1914 to 2014, and that's the end of our journey. But we are showing the journey of the last 100 years.
Good. Any questions, Irene?
Melody, could you, those figures, how tall will they be?
They are about, well, not my life size, about life size, about 5 feet tall.
Oh, okay.
So this example of tile that we've brought for you is a very scaled down version, but they will be about 5 feet tall.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Any other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Irene?
I thought of one. So what's the timeline if we prove this? What's the timeline for installation? And
After you approve this evening, luckily the artist again is local, and we plan to have installation in October and dedication in November. So well in time the anniversary.
Fabulous.
And again, if it wasn't for John and Carrie on our staff, this project could have been stalled as long as it took us to put the signs in the median on El Camino. It is amazing that we've gotten this far in a year, and we absolutely plan on finishing on time and on budget.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions?
Through the chair, can you expand a little bit on the lighting? Is that going to require new conduit, and is that included in the price?
It's not included in $75,000, but we have included it in our working budget, and we have worked with city staff on. They have actually gone out to design the best way to light the area.
If I could,
So I was going to say, I don't have all the technical.
if I could interrupt for a
aspects.
moment, sorry, Melody.
No.
This is an item we're aware of. We will be returning to council on this specific issue. Staff did meet early on from various departments to discuss what additions might need to be made to the project for safety reasons and for anti-vandalism measures. And so one of the things that did bubble up to the surface was lighting. So I have been working with engineering staff on what exists at that site and how what might be involved in drawing down power if necessary to do that. We're still in the phase of exploring and finding out what exactly we need. So what I can tell you now is that we will be having a more concrete picture of what actually exists out there, and then be able to come back to the council with some options for what might be feasible, and also with some cost estimates for that. But we wanted to make sure the project itself got done, and so if the lighting has a somewhat parallel track, we feel that would be sufficient to meet the needs of the project, whether it's before the dedication or somewhat after. Does that answer your question?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Our artist, Margarita, is here tonight, and again, she's local mountain.
No, I'm in San Francisco now.
San Francisco. Oh, even more local.
Yeah.
So she, as part of the creative process, as we come across wants and needs, she has been very flexible and is open to everybody's input, and it will continue to be a work in progress over the next several months.
Hello, everybody, and I'm really honored to stand here and present my project. Basically, it's been already presented. I just want to add a couple of things to my concept idea of floating shapes, as you could see on the boards, especially if they will put together, because it's two walls which continue each other along the roadside, and the challenges were to create an artwork which actually will be landmark and highlight of the road, but not distracting to the drivers. With that said, the shapes I choose to have on the wall are floating and curvy shapes to move along with your view. When you're passing by in the car, I drove a couple of times by the walls, and when you're passing by, I would like to create floating images and floating shapes that it would not be distracting to a driver. And to do the historical highlights, which we were talking about, also images on my sample has a tendency to have animated effect when you're passing by in the car or walking by on a bicycle. Your side vision registers the figures which all moving along the road. I don't know if I'm clear on the explanations, but please feel free to ask questions. And mark major historical events during the past 100 years. The texture, as you could see on the samples again, it's colors which will highlight the area, but not, again, not distracting, organically moving into environment, which is earthy colors and greens, and if you remember the area, it's very green and park-like area. And I try to do the shapes and images the way they will be organically moving in this environment.
Okay. Great. I know that you said the figures are diminished just for an example, but is that the physical size of the tiles?
Those are physical. This is a good question because the tiles are glass tiles, and that's a physical size of the tile. But with the larger size of the artwork, it's blending together much better than on my sample.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of the artist? I see we have a member of the public that has a question or a comment. Just tell us your name and your street.
Ariella Fiornelli, Plymouth Way. And my concern is more with the area you're putting it in. I understand this has been going on for a year, and this is the first I've heard of it. I live in that neighborhood. Thinking that it's not really the place to put something that should be public art. It's pretty much the entrance to a neighborhood, doesn't fit the character in the neighborhood. There isn't really any physical place you could stop and view that. You're just driving by in your car, there's no sidewalk there. Wouldn't this really be something that's more appropriate, maybe downtown, which is the historical area, City Hall, the park, or maybe even the BART station where people are coming into, San Bruno, and this is our history. And that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did you look at other locations, Melody, or?
We did actually, when we started the commission 10 years ago, one of the first things we did as a group is we went out and found areas that we could designate for public art. It's a challenge to find areas that the city owns and has control over that we can put our art on, mount our art and have control over our art. As we learned very early on in working with Caltrans in putting something as simple as city markers at the beginning and the end of El Camino San Bruno, it is a challenge to work with another entity. So we targeted this retaining wall area specifically because of the city owns it, it's in good shape, it is a well-traveled area, and it is right now filled with graffiti. So we want to, one, target that, and by putting in public art, it is a known factor that the graffiti artists will respect the art and move on to another place. We also are going to be graffiti proofing the art so that if it is tagged at some point, it will be easily removed. We have been up a number of times, both the commission and staff, to walk the area. There is a sidewalk on the other side of the street, so you can walk the area and visit it and spend more time in viewing the public art. But our goal is that it's not going to be busy or distracting, that it's going to be something pleasant that you see as you're driving along, very much like other cities have done in underpasses. But this is going to blend more with the scenery. The colors will not be shocking, bright primary colors as you see in other cities where they do the underpass in bright yellows, bright reds. This will blend with the environment and not stand out like a sore thumb.
All right, thank you. I just want to mention, too, that this has been under discussion for a long time in the Cultural and Arts Commission meetings, and they're noticed just as all of our city commissions are. So, you know, it's nothing done behind closed doors. It's been talked about for many, many months. So I just want to make that clear. Any other discussion? Okay.
I had a concern when it first was proposed about how it might be distracting, you know, in a good way. But now that I didn't even realize that there was a sidewalk across the street, and now that I see that it's going to be blended, it's not something that you might want to stop and read or something. So I think it's very appropriate. I think it's public art is an amenity. It's an enhancement. So it's better than nothing there. And I think it's appropriate because it is a well-traveled street that connects detached neighborhoods. And so, other than say maybe San Bruno Avenue, where we've spent a lot of money in in landscaping, here we don't have the ability to do that. And I think public art is a nice backdrop for that.
We anticipate and we hope that as it is a busy thoroughfare, that every time you drive through it, you'll discover something new in the art. Because you're certainly not going to go 15 miles an hour and see everything one time. We hope that every time you drive up or down Sneath Lane, that you notice something extra or something special or something else jumps out at you. Oh, there's the Posey Parade is represented in this. Oh, the Tan Fran is represented in this, when it was not only when it was an airport, but also when it was a racetrack. So it's an evolution of the city. The other reason that we selected this area is we have not done any art projects up in this area on the west side of 280 as of yet. So this is our first project on this side of San Bruno, and we certainly thought it was a good landscape to apply the Centennial mural.
Okay.
I'd love to, thank you.
Resolution.
Add that I'm welcoming everybody. If you have a suggestion, what else should be included in the artwork to make neighborhood more like tied to it, you're welcome to contact me or Melody.
Right, it is, as we said, the concept is complete, but it's a work in progress. So we can possibly make some additions or changes between now and the final product.
Good. Irene?
Thank you. I'm so proud of all of your commissioners. This is not easy to propose public art. It's always controversy. That's part of why we gave it to you guys to do. So I appreciate all your efforts. I know Carolyn Livingoods, who's here, has been a champion of bringing public art up to the west side of 280 for a lot of years. So congratulations that you're getting it done, and for the centennial, so that's a double whammy for you. But for all the commissioners, it's really wonderful that you volunteer your time for this. It's a dream of mine that there'll be public art everywhere, and we'll have lots of controversy because that means people are paying attention. So with that, I'd like to introduce the resolution. Oh, and I'm sorry, and I just want to say I think it's very commendable of you to put the to suggest that you put the $5,000 aside. I think that's very foresightful.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. I want to thank the commission for all your hard work. I know it's been a lot of work over this last year, and staff too. You put in a lot of time. Thank you very much. It's going to be a lot of fun. Item 10D, adopt a resolution approving installation of ADA parking zones at 757 Huntington Avenue and 880 San Mateo Avenue, and provide update on the development of a residential permit parking district around the San Bruno Avenue Caltrain grade separation station.
At the last council meeting, you were presented with all of the proposed traffic modification around the grade separation project and the new station for Caltrain on San Bruno and San Mateo. At that time, you were given details about the need for those changes. You took action on the parking restrictions implemented around the project area, and also you were advised about upcoming actions for including this action recommended tonight for the installation of 2 ADA parking zone, one in front of the American Legion and one in front of 880 on San Mateo. Since the last meeting, staff, based on additional analysis and discussion, made the presentation of the recommendation to the TSPC on 2nd of April. TSPC, based on the existing policy for the approval of ADA parking zones, is recommending the installation of those ADA parking zone for both locations, and that is our staff recommendation tonight for you to approve the installation of those ADA parking zones in front of the American Legion and also in front of 880 on San Mateo. The third item what I wish to give you an update tonight, additional information available for the parking concern around the whole project area, and how stated in the staff report, since I gave you the last presentation at the last council meeting. Since then, staff sent out a letter to all of the residents between Eastern and 4th Avenue and Angus and 380, advising them of the fact that the city is monitoring the parking situation after the opening of the station at that new location on April 1st. Was conducted a parking survey before the station opened on the 1st of April. Will be a follow-up public meeting on the 29th of this month, requesting input and comment from all of the residents in that area, seeking input to share with us their experience on any additional impact of the new location for the parking and for the parking area, and the new station at the new location. Based on those additional information and input from the residents, then and a follow-up parking survey conducted at the best time after the situation will stabilize with the new station location. Staff will go back, we analyze those information, we'll go back with a recommendation to TSPC, and we'll follow up with recommendation for your consideration. That can be a special parking district, or depending on the problem observed or monitored between now and then, depending on the problem, with the best solution to address those problems, staff will come back to you with recommendation at that time. This is my short presentation tonight, if you have any questions.
Any questions of Clara at this time? Okay.
I'm in favor of the placement of the handicap stalls, but until we discuss say a parking permit program or a limited time parking permit, limited parking time, there really is no guarantee that that these parking spaces would be available as they were requested. Anyone with a valid handicap accessible parking placard can park in these spaces. Is that correct?
You are absolutely correct. That fact was very broadly discussed with the resident of 880 and also with the American Legion. Alternatives were presented for their consideration, that maybe a green zone would better fit the need of those specific location, or even green zone or time limit parking for both locations. They were very strong in their request and their opinion that this will meet their need. Staff agreed entirely with your assessment that those can be used by anybody in both locations.
Okay.
Irene?
I probably should have asked Raphael before, but do we have a timeline of when the Caltrain station parking itself will be completed?
Based on the information what I have available, is their intent to open the main entrance on San Mateo, the final entrance, the main entrance to the parking lot, 1st of May.
Oh, that soon. Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Riegel? You have a question?
I just had a couple concerns on the parking permit in the area. In looking at the map, Robert Riegel, 7th Avenue, it seems like maybe the area that you are considering maybe is a little wider than is necessary. In the past, when we did Huntington, I believe you charged all the residents. Is there a possibility that the residents will get the first permit free? If they have multiple cars, then they might have to pay for the second or third one. And what sort of time limit for, if I want to go visit my friend that lives over there, how long can I park if I can find a spot before potentially the visitors would be ticketed? So I think those are just questions that I'm sure Clara has given some thought to, but I just wanted to broach them. Thank you.
Okay, as we get more exposure going down, I think we'll take a look at all of those. Right. Any other questions or action by the council?
Through the chair. I have a question regarding the ADA space at 880 San Mateo. I understand that that's a fairly unique situation where we allow something like that in front of a residential home. There's nothing listed under fiscal impact, so I'm wondering, is that any changes that happen to that particular spot, are those costs incurred by the resident or by the city?
Based on our existing parking restriction policy approved by you, The resident will be responsible for the cost of installation of the parking zone and the ongoing maintenance costs for that zone.
Okay. And is there a policy for reviewing when that space is no longer needed? If those residents were to move and that need goes away, are we periodically reviewing that it's still necessary? And
You are correct, and I don't remember for sure if it's on yearly basis or biennial basis. You have to renew the parking permit, and basically you have to repay the fee. I am not certain if it's on yearly basis or each second year, but yes, was considered in the policy the possibility that the need is changing, and you have to basically restate the need for the same reason.
thank you.
Through the chair, to what the council member said, are they aware of the cost?
Yes, they are very well aware of the
And they've
cost.
accepted
Yes.
and understand? Okay. If there are no other questions from council, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the resolution. Please, go.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10E, adopt a resolution accepting a donation from the San Bernardino Lions Club for labor and materials to make improvements to Portola Performing Arts Center in the amount of approximately $30,000.
Good evening, honorable mayors and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight representing Parks and Recreation Commission and their recommendation for the Portola Performing Arts Center. In attendance tonight are Commissioners Lori Greenberg, David Nigel, and Greg Pierce. The Portola Performing Arts Center is approximately 40 years old. The roof is approximately 20 years old. In an effort to budget for a new roof, staff contacted C&J Roofing. The owner is a San Bruno Lion and felt a full remodel of the building would be a good service project for the San Bruno Lions Club. The roof was estimated at $20,000, which was approved in the 2013-14 capital improvement budget. A contractor for the roof will be selected in a manner consistent with the city's bidding procedures. On March 19th, the San Bruno Lions Club made a presentation before the Parks and Recreation Commission regarding the proposed improvements to Portola Performing Arts Center. These include replacement of all windows, upgrade to light fixtures, new kitchen tile, counter and sink and faucet, replacement of the heater vent pipe, demolition and repair of exterior brick chimney, landscape cleanup, and an exterior and interior painting. The estimated value of the proposed work is $30,000. Qualified licensed contractors will secure the necessary permits, and all insurance requirements will be met, and inspections by the city building inspectors will be performed. Consistent with the plaque placed at Beckner Shelter, staff recommends a 9x12 plaque be installed at the entrance to the Performing Arts Center, recognizing the Lions Club for their work. And if you can see that, that is what the one at Beckner Shelter looks like. So I just took a picture of it so that you can see it's 9x13. It's very small and muted. And so I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Good. Any questions of staff?
There's a representation from the Lions Club, and he's been sitting here for a couple hours. I'd like him to get up and sort of explain how we're going to, what we're going to do, what the Lions are going to do. Not necessarily me.
Hi. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, my name's Mel Phillips. I represent the Lions Club, and we are here because we are actually excited about donating our labor and our materials and money to help the city, to help the children of the city, to help the people that use this building to make it more attractive, warmer, and safer for all involved. How we're going to do this? Well, we're going to show up on a Saturday, and we're going to tear into it, and we're going to get it done. We're all pretty much experienced at doing this. So I believe that The project itself will take a few days, but we will have all our material on hand and all our labor on hand and ready to go as soon as school lets out, I believe it is. Any other questions?
Budget-wise, you're saying approximately $30,000. Does that take into account the budget of the city's $20,000?
You know, I can't answer that question because I didn't sit on the budget committee. I can tell you that we, several of us provided estimates for the actual work that's being done. And the budget committee for the project put it all together. So I can't answer your question directly.
The $20,000 that we have budgeted is in addition to the $30,000 coming from the Lions Club.
And I'm losing my voice.
Great. Good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mel, very much, and to the whole organization.
Yes, one more.
Commissioner Dave Nigel, Skyline Boulevard. That building holds a special place in my heart because when I was state president of the Parks and Recreation Commissioners and board members, we had our state meeting there, along with Senator Cranston and Senator Hayakawa. And I am so happy that the Lions is refurbishing this facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through the chair, I want to, obviously, we thank them, but obviously they've already helped out at Beckner Shelter, which you made a huge difference, which everybody enjoys throughout the year. And I know I left Parks and Rec staff in 2000, and I know at that time the building needed a lot of TLC. So I think it probably is it's well needed and appreciated very much.
Action.
Through the chair,
Michael.
I have a question. So I'm assuming that whenever the city does a repair project on a city-owned facility, we require the contractor to pull permits and they pay the permit fees and they just pass that cost back on to us, and so we end up paying the permit fees. But in this case, if a nonprofit is doing it, we would still charge them for the permits, or do we waive those permit fees?
Yes, we waive those permit fees. They do still pull the permits, but we do waive those permit fees, which is how we handled it with Beckner Shelter.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great answer.
Ken?
Through the chair, I'd be honored to adopt the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Aye. Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10F, receive a report on the Grand Boulevard Initiative's Complete Streets case study and adopt resolution appropriating $365,000 of Measure M funds to complete 100% design drawings for the entire San Bruno case study segment.
Through the chair, on this item, it's been advised that due to my residence that I should recuse myself, being within 500 feet of said project, and there's a lot of other technical that we won't go into at all, but I'll be recusing myself.
Ditto.
All right, David?
Oh, through the chair?
Yes, Irene?
And would our city attorney explain why, even though I live close to the two gentlemen, I can't recuse myself?
Yes, the city council may recall that some time ago when it was considering the transit corridor plan, which in many respects is coterminous with this area, that 3 of the council members were conflicted. And under state law, there's a procedure for drawing lots of the 3 conflicted council members. And when that occurred, Councilmember O'Connell drew the short straw or the long straw, as the case may be, and was selected to participate in all future matters relating to this particular corridor. And so that's the reason why Councilmember O'Connell is participating in this action tonight.
David?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. The purpose of this agenda item is to update you on the Grand Boulevard Initiative San Bruno Complete Streets project and to request the allocation of $365,000 in Measure A funds to complete the design and environmental certification for this project. The Grand Boulevard Initiative is a multi-jurisdictional partnership of the cities and counties along El Camino Real between Daly City and San Jose, approximately 43 miles in length, as well as other interests in the vicinity, with the purpose of transforming El Camino Real from a generally auto-oriented commercial strip into a corridor for mixed residential and commercial development that accommodates not only those who use the automobile, but pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users. Additionally, as the region's population increases, we anticipate seeing a large amount of housing provided along El Camino Real in this region. Housing close to transportation, jobs, and services. The Grand Boulevard Initiative seeks to improve the performance, safety, and aesthetics of El Camino Real. In 2008, the San Bruno City Council adopted Resolution 2008-17, endorsing the Grand Boulevard Initiative and directing staff to incorporate its guiding principles into plans that involve El Camino Real in this community. The City Council continued its support of these guiding principles to transform El Camino Real into a more mixed-use environment, an environment that's friendly to pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users, with additional actions. In 2009, the City Council adopted its general plan incorporating GBI principles. In 2012, the City Council adopted a complete streets policy, and in 2013, the City Council adopted the Transit Corridors Plan. Moreover, in 2012, San Bruno was selected as one of 4 cities to participate in the Grand Boulevard Complete Streets project, the other cities being South San Francisco, Daly City, and San Carlos. The idea of this program really is to create the opportunity to design streets that could be models for other communities in the region, state, and well beyond. This Complete Streets project partnership includes San Mateo County Transit, SamTrans, the City County Association of Governments, CCAG, Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, as well as the 4 participant cities. This partnership has been working with a design team and Caltrans to come up with plans for these segments. At this point, the San Bruno plan is about 30% developed, but there's still much work to be done. SamTrans representatives have contacted the city and indicated that there's an opportunity to participate in a grant application to take our 30% design to a 100% design. The design that we're looking at currently, the 30% design, looks at narrowing lanes, intersection improvements. For example, here in San Bruno, our segment is from Taylor Avenue to the south to San Bruno Avenue to the north. And within that area, there would be the opportunity to realign, design for, and in the future reconstruct the key intersection at San Mateo Avenue and El Camino Real, the gateway to our downtown. There would also be sidewalk improvements with landscaping. There would be median improvements. The existing median improvements would remain, but there would be the opportunity to extend the nose treatments to allow for larger areas for pedestrian safety or refuge areas. Traffic signals would be replaced, and there would be sustainable features for rainwater infiltration and stormwater capture areas. And moving forward, there would be the opportunity to look at where we want parking to remain on the street to service future commercial uses. We would also be looking at the opportunity for right turn options at San Bruno Avenue and Genevan Avenue. This grant application that's been brought to our attention is a grant that is being offered by the Department of Transportation at the federal government level. The remaining design cost is estimated to be about $1,825,000, and there would be a local match required. The local match is about $365,000. And so tonight we're asking that you consider allocating Measure A funds in the amount of $365,000 to be San Bruno's local match. Overall, the segment from San Bruno Avenue to Taylor, the estimated construction cost is $7.3 million. Staff believes that moving forward with this opportunity is advisable and beneficial. The segment that we're talking about is in the heart of the Transit Corridors Plan, the approved Transit Corridors Plan. In the Transit Corridors Plan, in the adoption of that plan, there are several sections that talk about implementation and how we should move forward with implementation. Those sections talk about leveraging public funds to encourage private investment and redevelopment. This would be an opportunity to have a key, very visible segment of one of our key corridors, El Camino Real, transformed with the improvements that I've described, not only meeting the vision of the Grand Boulevard Initiative, but also the design plans in the Transit Corridors Plan. In this area, not only is this a key location for the gateway to the downtown, it's also a location where we have a catalytic site in the Transit Corridors Plan. It's catalytic site number 3, and it's envisioned as a mixed-use project with commercial on ground floor and residential above, and that would be on the easterly side of El Camino Real at the entry to the downtown at San Mateo Avenue. And by the way, we recently received an application in that very vicinity for the redevelopment of the cinema site. So there's a certain synergy going on in terms of a private application in that area, a catalytic site in the Transit Corridors Plan, and our key gateway, southern gateway to our downtown. We see this as an opportunity to complete the plans, do 100% design plans, and then be in a position to apply for further grant funding for actual construction of this area, and signal to private interests in the area that the city is taking a leadership position in terms of putting in public improvements and really setting the stage for private investment, development, and redevelopment in this key area. In terms of the funding that we're suggesting that would be used, we're suggesting that Measure A funds be used. Measure A funds are funds that were provided by way of a 2004 vote, a voter-approved half-cent sales tax initiative. The city collects about $800,000 a year. About 1/2 of those funds are used for maintenance, street maintenance and improvements, and the other half for one-time major projects, capital projects. As an example, one of the capital projects was for the grade separation. About $378,000 was used as a local match for the grade separation project. With that, our recommendation tonight is to go forward and adopt the resolution attached to your staff report, adopting a resolution of local support for an application for funding to complete the San Bruno Complete Streets Case Study project design, committing local matching funds in the amount of $365,000 from available Measure A funds. Currently, we have a balance of about $960,000 in that fund. This evening, Mr. Garvey, Mike Garvey, is here with the Grand Boulevard Initiative program, and he would be available to respond to any questions you may have. I'd be happy to respond to your questions as well. Attached to your staff report this evening, we have a number of attachments that include, for example, the proposed preliminary design plans for San Mateo Avenue at El Camino Real that are both shown in the 30% plans for the Grand Boulevard Initiative Complete Streets project, as well as the design plans shown in the Transit Corridors Plan. We also have some exhibits that show some of the improvements, the design improvements that are being worked on in the San Bruno segment, the lane narrowing, the landscaped areas, etc. I'd be happy to respond to any questions you have on those as well. Thank you.
Connie? did you-
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just one note, and that is that the agenda incorrectly lists the funding source proposed as Measure M, which is a different funding source. It is Measure A funds that are being recommended should the City Council desire to move forward.
Okay, thank you. David and Connie, I think this is great going forward. It's really going to blend in nice and, with our transit corridors plan. But obviously, this is going to take a lot of staff time. Do we have any indication on top of the 365 what it would take internally for us to work on this too?
I think that from a staffing standpoint, I can imagine that both community development and public services would need to contribute staff resources to attend meetings. I think it will be very important that as the design team works on going from 30% to 100%, that the staff, the San Bruno staff, has a strong role in making sure that, for example, the parking that is to be retained is placed at locations that make sense in terms of our planning for the future, in terms of the transit corridors plan, where there may be retail and commercial uses and the need for on-street parking, for example. As far as staffing resources, I would imagine that community development would identify a staff person that would be committed to going to the team meetings, and that normally what we would do in a case like this is, as plans are being developed, we would bring those plans in, share those plans at meetings of various staff members that would be involved, whether it be community services or community development, other departments, for example, Parks and Rec, in terms of landscape improvements, gather collective comments from the various staff members, and then the staff people assigned to work with the team would then bring back those group comments, those collected comments to those meetings. So I would imagine that we would assign at least one staff person that would be the representative, and we would have group meetings to make sure we're getting input from the various disciplines and interests within the city departments.
And is that a direct City of San Bruno expense, or is that part of our Measure A funds, or a blend, or?
Yeah, let me respond a little bit more with an additional comment, and that is that I would express a concern and a need for further evaluation from staff to return to you with a more precise understanding of what will be required to support the procedure that the director has outlined. Given the workload and given the numbers of projects that are on the plate right now, it is not out of the question that some additional Measure A resource may be needed to support additional adjunct staff support to assist in managing this, along with the variety of other projects that we have in front of us. We have not yet done that analysis. We do not yet have a clear and complete understanding of how this design program might roll out regionally, what would be the frequency and the pace of the need for staff direct involvement in order to adequately represent the interests of the city of San Bruno. But we would anticipate, pending your consideration tonight, we would anticipate returning to you quickly with that more detailed analysis.
Okay, are you suggesting that we hold this resolution over until we get that information?
Not necessarily. We're looking, in particular, given the very short timeline that's been identified to us by the Grand Boulevard staff, we would be looking at least for your guidance about whether you're seriously interested in this, and could probably work with the Grand Boulevard staff to manage that kind of an interest as opposed to your actual adoption of the resolution.
Is that something you're comfortable with, Mr. Garvey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He said yes, sir, just so everybody heard. Ken?
I'm the representative on the Grand Boulevard Task Force, and I've been seeing a lot of this and, you know, a lot of these case studies and things, and it's very exciting to now see it implemented, you know, along our corridor. I am a little concerned about trees replacing parking spaces, parking spaces being eliminated to enhance pedestrian, because we do have some, we will have some very concerned business owners. And so I like the fact that, you know, staff's going to be a big part of it. I'm also concerned because we are coming off of a major project, almost 10 years worth of a grade separation, where we were a partner with the JPB. And we even involved nearly 20 community members to have some input with this. So what I don't want, as we get involved and all the other cities get involved with Grand Boulevard Initiative in their towns, that consultants and designers are doing what they feel is right in our community. I think we need to have, you know, as other than just one representative, we need to have some input and have some, you know, public process involved with them understanding what they're, you know, what we're going to get into. With that said, I'm also very concerned about construction costs. You know, we haven't sat up here for 17 years to, you know, pay, you know, outlay money on designs and then not have an idea of how we're going to pay for it. $7.3 million today, you know, is going to be more than likely more, you know, when we get ready to do it. So as much as we go forward, I'm really going to need to know how, you know, what we're going to do, you know, as far as paying for this project. It seems that without redevelopment, grants are the new, you know, are the new buzzword now. And until we see or get a better feel for what grants are available and confident that we can, you know, actually succeed in winning a grant, we'll probably, I hate to think that we're just going to have a nice design that we can't afford to build. So.
Irene?
I agree. Maybe Mr. Garvey can give us some insight about the grants themselves. And then also, I've been looking over the specs of all these and the different drawings. And while it's very attractive, I don't see anything here that our own team can't design. So if you want to explain why it's so much, I mean, not just our part, but the overall $1.7 million to design, I think it's about 2 miles of cityscape, that would be appreciated. So go for it.
You're on.
You're on.
What I can't, what, am I on?
You're on.
What I can address, excuse me, my name is Michael Garvey, and I'm on contract to the Grand Boulevard Initiative. My role is to work on the liaison and the relationships between the cities and counties and the Grand Boulevard Initiative. For several years, 6 or 7 years, we have worked, and San Bruno has been an important part of that, to stitch together 19 cities, 2 counties, transit districts, Caltrans, Caltrain, BART, even Air Quality District and MTC and ABAG, and some private sector representatives all together trying to craft a unified approach to how each community wants to manage the Grand Boulevard, that is State Highway, the State Highway here called El Camino Real. In all of this, we have our role as the initiative has been to facilitate each of the agencies, and we never tell agencies what we think they should do. Rather, we provide information, advice, and guidance, and then each city is free to make its own decision. As an example, we adopted 10 very generic guiding principles. The Grand Boulevard Initiative, the task force did, and that had no effect. They were handed off to each of the cities and counties, and the cities and counties adopted and incorporated those guiding principles in their own planning and making their own interpretation. The grants we've been operating on for several years now have been geared to develop information to give to the cities and counties and the various districts information they could use to make their own plans. We have reached a point recently with the completion of a Tiger II grant that had 3 components. one of which was Complete Streets Phase 1, and that's the study that Mr. Woltering mentioned, the 4 cities, including San Bruno, were the case studies. We've reached a point where we feel like it's time to stop gathering information and it's time to start moving towards implementation. We want to see some progress. We want to see some physical manifestation of the beautiful and well-functioning arterial that we all have as our vision. And with that in mind, we turned our attention to other grant opportunities. We feel the role of the Grand Boulevard Initiative now should be to help cities and other member agencies get the grants that you need to actually get into implementation. And of course, the first step of implementation is to get complete drawings, which are terribly expensive. A complete street project is far more than what is only seen on the surface. It's not only the trees that we've talked about it, but the subsurface itself has to go through evaluation. We know from the infrastructure assessment study we did, again with your staff heavy cooperation and involvement, we know there are some significant issues beneath the surface in San Bruno, as in every city, and these conditions and problems are different from city to city, so that the work being done to make this design is also going to have to look at the subsurface, the drainage, the sewer system, et cetera, then up to the surface, and even at there, the crest of the road itself may have to be altered. There's complicating factors that engineers will have to get into, and that has the effect of driving the planning cost a lot higher. The one thing I take comfort in is that at the end of the day, we won't have yet one more plan. Rather, we'll have plans that will be ready when the time comes for the city to go out for bid to actually see this project go under construction. When this project, assuming that Daly City and San Bruno do proceed and say they'd like us to do this, because we won't do it unless you want us to do it, we will submit a grant application, and if successful, then we will have money to hand off to the city for the work. I think there'll be some involvement as yet undefined in our involvement, because neither city will be the direct recipient of the grant, but we worked cooperatively before. We'll do it again. The money would come through to you, and you'd have the maximum say on all of this, just because it's your city, and the ultimate design will have to be what you want, not what someone from outside the city would like to have. So that's the concept we're moving forward on. It's something different because the grant will go to probably to Samtrans. We need a legal entity to receive the grant, although it could be the Transportation Authority. I'm not sure how that's going to work out yet. But the money will be passed through. Whatever agency has the grant has to do an audit and that sort of thing, so there's some expense involved. But the bulk of the money will be passed through to your city to work in your community to do the plan the way you want it done. And we're happy because that'll be consistent with the 10 guiding principles. The only other comment I would make was that there was a question. You have a resolution tonight. A strong statement from the 2 participating cities will be an essential part of the grant application that we are preparing. And that, by the way, is being done at Samtrans' expense, not at any of the city's expense. We don't need the resolution. We also have a draft letter that you can look at and see if you're comfortable going in that direction with the letter. But we do have to have a fairly strong statement that there's very serious interest on the part of the 2 cities, and we have no other source for the hard match money, the 20%, which is why we're now before the cities. On phase 1 of this, the Tiger grant from 2 years ago, which included Complete Streets Phase 1, this is Complete Streets Phase 2. That money, the hard match, the cash match, was provided by CCAG for the jurisdictions in San Mateo County, and that's why we didn't ask you for any money at that point. So I hope that answers any questions you may have. If there's any others, I'd be pleased to answer those as well.
Ken?
The budget is laid out at $7.3 million, and I know government works slow, so if we're maybe 5 years down the road, 3, 4, or 5 years down the road, what do we anticipate as far as some grant assistance, and what would you be proposing to the cities as to how we pay for this?
I'd have to say that there is no assurance we'll be able to get any more grants, but there is assurance that without the shovel-ready design, we won't be eligible to even try for any grants. The indications are that there will be federal grants available for the next few years, and we intend to go as quickly as we can, and we intend to apply for those grants once we have the completed design ready in the two cities. Beyond that, I'm afraid I can't give you any guarantees or assurances.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, if I may, I thought it would be important to mention at this point that state law requires 3 affirmative votes for the expenditure of money, so that rule would apply to this particular action.
Okay. So the action, I think we're all in favor of going forward with this, but you want to bring us back some specifics, Connie? Is that your suggestion?
We're happy to do that either separately, or you can take action on this resolution and ask us to come back, or we can Mr. Garvey is asking you for a strong statement at the minimum, if it is the desire of the council to move forward, and we can bring back the resolution and the staff involvement issue at the same time. Your choice.
Yeah, I'm very confident to do this. I believe since we do have, what do you call it, catalyst area number 3 or 1, no, 3. I'm very excited to see that developed along with some of our other cross streets. So I'm prepared to introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final item of conduct of business, 10G, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Roadrunner Drilling and Pump Company Incorporated for the Acapella Site Test Well and Commodore Site Test Well in the amount of $257,330 with a construction contingency of $38,600.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. My name is Yoon Jun Kim. I work as the city engineer in the Public Services Department. The city receives water from 3 sources: the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, North Coast County Water District, and a system of groundwater wells. Well 15, located at Commodore Park, has been out of service since 2010. Last October, staff brought a status update regarding the progress of the project to replace well 15 to the council. We identified 2 sites that were the most feasible locations. They were at Commodore Park and the Acapella site adjacent to Archstone Apartments. Staff went out to bid to install test wells for these 2 locations. Last month, staff received 1 bid by Roadrunner Pumping and Drilling. Staff, during the process of soliciting bids, staff contacted 25 drilling companies, also worked with 7 plan houses and advertised in the newspaper 2 times. However, we did only receive 1 bid, and the reason for this are twofold. First, the drought conditions in the region have created a high demand for drilling contractors, and also the recovering economy has created a high demand for construction in general. So we received only 1 bid, and the bid we did receive was 37% above the engineer's estimate. Staff checked the references and determined that Roadrunner Drilling Company has installed 6 wells in the area for San Francisco, South San Francisco, Daly City, Colma, and the PUC. They have received excellent reviews for their quality of work and their workmanship overall. Staff does recommend proceeding with the contract with Roadrunner Drilling Company. The contract specifies that we will drill 2 test wells. One, if the first well provides favorable results for a production well, we will not proceed with the secondary test well. This could save approximately 40% of the contract cost. I'm here to answer any questions regarding this process for this test well.
Any questions of staff? Okay.
I'm just going to say that, I mean, even though it's not in the staff report, I do recall the pros and cons of, well, actually the reasoning for having the 2 test wells, and I think it was detailed as to which test well you'd go for first, and then what qualities you'd be looking for to determine whether or not you'd do the second test well.
Correct. The first test well will be at the location there we have estimated would provide the highest yield and the lowest overall operational costs. And if our assumptions are correct, we will not need to go with the secondary test well.
Okay. Any questions or action by the council?
Any questions? I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 11, report of commissions, boards, and committees. There aren't any this evening. Comments from council members?
Through the chair. As we had some time outside, I just had noticed on the consent calendar I made an error and I had forgotten to pull item C, which was waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance to regulate the inspection, repair, and replacement of private sewer laterals at the time of sale. So just noted on the record that I had intended to have pulled that and voted no, but obviously
Okay.
I missed it.
Anything else? We're going to go continue our closed session that we started at 6 o'clock. Very short amount left, I understand. And this meeting will adjourn, but I would like to close this meeting in memory of a wonderful lady who was a real piece of work. She was a real good piece of work in this city, and I really loved her, as we all did. That was Rose Urbach, who passed away a week or so ago at the age of 97. And I know that Ken worked closely with her on the airport roundtable and spoke at her service, and I'd like you to just say a couple of words about Rose.
Yes, it was a pleasure and honor to be recognized and speak at her funeral last Saturday, and in attendance with many people, many community people, and what I didn't realize was a loving family, a very large extended family. She had 10 grandchildren and 13 great-grandchildren, and spoke of a wonderful woman that unconditional love and love for family. And it was a Rose that I quite frankly was not familiar with. Although Rose was very committed to the community. She loved this community. She was one of the first people here in this community, lived here 72 years. So she had some credibility, and she was well respected in many respects throughout, and especially at the round table, where she was well known and probably did a lot that we don't appreciate today. So I did speak highly of her, and I did make it clear that she did coin the phrase San Bruno City with a heart, and did state that our heart was broken when she left us. The family was very grateful that we recognized her, and actually made a pitch to try and honor her in some future way. So we'll leave the council to that discussion at a future time, but we will miss her.
Thanks. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. And this meeting is adjourned until the next one right here, April 22nd. Everyone, please.